There's a saying that I live my life by. There's no such thing as a coincidence. A coincidence is God at work. Mike and I have actually known each other our whole life. Our families grew up together, so therefore, that's how we've always known each other, pretty much from babies on up. And, we never really got to spend a whole lot of time as kids together. It would just be when, our families would get together. But whenever we did, we really enjoyed each other's company. As a child growing up, I had some struggles. My dad, I had to witness him, hurting my mother and, abusing her and my sisters. I also had endured abuse at the hands of both my father and stepfather. I was also bullied a lot. God was always there to help me through everything, so.
Everything was normal to the point when, 10th grade came. That's when tragedy started to hit my life. I was 19, and this shouldn't be happening. Why is my lip numb? We went and saw my neuro physician. He informed my mom and me with the groundbreaking news that I have MS. After being diagnosed, it was a very questioning time in my life. I questioned everything, from is there a God to why is this happening to me? Why is all this stuff happening to my family? I had 5 people in my family die in 1 year. Everything ranged from AIDS to suicide to cancer. It was very hard for me to deal with. I had no idea which way to go in my faith.
About a year after Mike was diagnosed with his MS, him and I had reconnected and started talking to each other, and my cousin had gotten married. Mike was there, I was there, and we actually started dating that day when we were at the wedding. Mike was actually concerned right away, since he had always known me. He said, I do have MS, and this can be very hard in the future, especially when we're 19 years old. You're not even thinking what MS really means. Yeah, the doctors may say, oh yeah, well, you can become paralyzed and this, that, or the other, but we just started dating and didn't think anything was going to happen, at least not for a long time. Mike and I, at this point, we're probably about a year or so into our relationship. Mike started to have a little bit of problems. It was at that point that I started to have certain people, certain family members and friends, say to me, are you sure you want to be with him? You're young and you have your whole life ahead of you, and why would you want to stay with him? And I would ask these people, if you were sick and you had a disease that you couldn't control, wouldn't you hope that you could still find someone who would love you and be there for you? When you love somebody, you don't just up and leave. I was definitely not going to leave him just because he was sick. Mike's starting to get sicker, and we knew that there was something that we had to do, a drastic change. We had looked on the internet and ran across Forbes' top 10 places to live and saw Indiana. Everyone thought we were crazy. We had never been there. No one we knew had ever been there. We just went for it. And that's where we lived for 2 years. We got married, and a few months later, we found out that we were going to be parents. I was so excited. I always wanted to be a mom. Wow, it was wonderful news. A week after finding out that, we were going to be parents, Mike had endured a very serious relapse. It actually made him temporarily paralyzed from the waist down. He said, "Theresa, I can't move. I need you to come home." I came home and it was really scary. He had to go straight into the hospital. They were afraid that if they didn't put him on steroids right away, that he could suffer permanent damage. It was a very, very difficult time for us. It was then that we knew that we had to come home and right away. 2 weeks later, we were back in Maryland. We were still having that dream of, wanting to have our own home and trying to get everything ready for, when our baby would come. We were looking and nothing was really working out for us. We had actually saw this one house and we put a contract in, only to have it fall through. At that point, I think we kind of gave up hope. Then our realtor had said to us one day, "You know what? I got this amazing house I want you guys to look at." It wasn't even anything that we wanted to see. It didn't really show that well online, so we never really asked to see it. So he takes us there, and I'm so glad that he did. As soon as we walked into that house, I knew right from that moment that was exactly where we were supposed to be. This is where God wanted us to be. I just knew it as soon as we walked in the house. And Olivia was in the background, jumping up and down, saying, "This is my house."
She took her jacket off and everything and laid on the floor and her soon-to-be room.
The house was a good bit more than what we could afford. This house had only been on the market for 11 days. We were thinking there was no way that we were going to get it, but we were wrong. The seller accepted our offer. At this point, I've been telling Mike for a long time that you need to really start believing in God. And I said, "Look, I'm telling you that God is real and you just have to put faith in Him. And the minute that you do that, you're going to see such a big change in not just your life, but our life together, and it's going to make us stronger." Even after all this, Mike still seemed as though, he had his doubts. The day that we moved in, people were just so wonderful. I mean, they came over and introduced themselves the day that we moved in. It was just so warm and friendly. One day, I was at work. Mike had called to tell me one of our neighbors, his name is Steve, he had came over and started to plant flowers in our garden. He's the gardener, and he loves planting flowers in anybody's garden. He's just how he is. He had his own flowers, his own stuff. He was over there putting the flowers in, and Mike had heard something. So he opened the door and he saw him standing there. And Steve said, "I'm sorry, Mike, have I disturbed you?" He said, "Are you serious? Disturb me? You are doing something for us just to be nice, and you're asking if you disturb me?" Mike was just saying that he could tell between the wonderful people that we have as neighbors and just all these great things are happening to us. He said, "Theresa," he said, "I think I'm starting to believe now." He was starting to believe. I knew I had to do something. So the next step was finding a church. One day we were at our neighbors, Theresa and Nicole, who were going to a church called Arundel Christian Church. She had given me this card, and it said The Unknown God on it, talking about, what they were talking about that month. She was saying how amazing the church was and everything that I needed. It started at 9 o'clock, so I could go to church and still get to work on time, and it offered something for our daughter to go to. So, we decided to try it that very next Sunday, and we're so glad that we did. When the pastor started talking and asking the questions, it was questions that Mike had always asked me that I didn't know how to answer. Mike looked at me and said, "Theresa, you know what?" He said, I'm getting this." I remember just literally looking up and just thanking God, because I had been praying for literally years to come into Mike's heart. I always knew that deep down, Mike wanted to believe. I knew he believed in something, but no one had ever taken the time to go over with him, about God and everything. It's only been a few months now, but it's been a dramatic change. Mike has went from not knowing what he believes to wholeheartedly believing, saying grace at the dinner table and praying, and it just goes to show that, never give up. We all go through things in life, and some are worse than others. There's a saying that I live my life by. There's no such thing as a coincidence. A coincidence is God at work. And I wholeheartedly believe this statement because I've had to overcome so many things. Mike has had to overcome so many things. And if we hadn't been through all of that, we wouldn't be who we are today. The thing is, no matter what we're going through, we just always got to keep faith and always pray and never lose hope and never lose sight, because God is always going to walk you through it. He's always going to help you through it. We're Mike and Theresa Scott,
And we're all in.